What's up, Havenites, and welcome to another episode of the Pull List, where every week we go through last week's comics. Can I give you all a few thoughts on them, what I think, if I think you should buy it, if it was good, if it wasn't good. Y'all know how it is for those of you that have been tuning in. For those of you that first time watching, that's literally the way we do things. Welcome. One thing that I do ask is, if you wouldn't mind, hit that like button. That really does help videos of small channels like ours. It also helps if you subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. They're down there somewhere. Also, this is actually middle of the week when I'm filming it. But it's Friday for those of you that are watching it at work. Awesome, you're my type of people goofing off at work on a Friday. Love y'all, mean it. But why don't we just jump right into it? We got the store folio. Let's see what all we had. We had a fairly decent week last week. Had some good comics. One I'm not too thrilled with, but we'll get to it. We'll get to that one. I'm not going to trash them too hard, but we will get to them. Right off the bat, let's get started. We have What If Dark, Moon Knight, issue number 1. This was a really good issue. In this particular issue, Mark Spector does not survive when he is facing Bushman. He is trying to save Marlena. This actually goes all the way back to Moon Knight number 1, that story that was being told. As far as how Mark got his powers and all that when he faces off with Bushman. I don't think that was actually happened in issue number 1 of Moon Knight, which is up there. Y'all can't see it. But basically, Mark does not survive. Frenchie picks up his body, also picks up Marlena, makes off with him, gets out. Mark dies in Marlena's arms. She ends up, basically, she is not necessarily confronted, that would be the wrong word, but she's given an offer by Ra, the sun god, to become his avatar, and she becomes, and that just completely, Luminary, that was her name, Luminary, but she becomes Luminary, and she fights crime just like Mark does, Moon Knight. She ends up going after Bushman and all that to basically avenge Mark's death. This was a really good issue. It was a solid issue. It was a one-shot. Some fantastic art, really good story. I really enjoyed this one. Didn't really know what to expect going into it, but it was, for what it was really good. I would not mind seeing a little more of this story in some type of alternate universe. I think that would be fun, especially when Marlena kind of has her moment at the end of it. And the way that it ends is basically, she's pretty much in a coma, maybe possibly dying, and she sees Mark kind of on the other side, and they're kind of, like they're reaching for each other, and he's talking to her, and I believe he says something like, just take my hand or something like that, and she's like, I can't. Well, the reason why she can't, the way I took it, was Ra ends up taking complete and total control of her body, and she's no longer a luminary. She is the living embodiment of the sun god Ra. I thought that was really cool. There was your kind of dark twist, I guess we could say. But it was just a fun read. It was a really good one-shot. I like the way that it just kind of left it hanging out there. If they don't revisit it, it was still good. If they do revisit it, there's a lot of story they could actually tell. Next up on the list, we have Darth Vader, issue 37. This falls in line with the current Dark Droid story that's going on. In this particular issue, Vader and the droids that he has working for him, they go to the Executioner because the Executioner has been ran over by droids. They've actually eliminated the vast majority of the Empire. They've taken over the ship. Vader is in the middle of just going after everybody. It's just part of that Dark Droid storyline. I'm not going to beat that. I'm not going to beat that particular dead horse a lot. Everybody that's been watching this kind of knows how I feel about Vader and Star Wars, the main title. They're really good, but I'm getting kind of tired of these whole massive storylines. Just hurry up and get us to Jedi. Get us beyond Jedi, and let's see what's going to happen after that. I know some of you are just now sitting there saying, but there is no Darth Vader after Jedi. If Marvel's smart about it, they could do like an Untold Tales or something like that. They could really carry on Vader if they wanted to, but I'm ready to get beyond these dark droids and everything else. Sorry. Next up on the list, we have Alien, issue number 5. This is the finale of this 5-issue story arc. I'm gonna butcher his name if you ever see this. I'm so sorry for not saying it properly, but Chalvet, I'm redneck from Alabama. I've told y'all that I don't know how many times. Has done a fantastic job writing these stories. This has been exactly what you want it to be for an alien story. In this particular issue, there was one character, and if it said his name, it might have said his name in the first couple of issues, and it may be a one-time deal. He does, and for those of you that want to know who I'm talking about, who's actually reading this, I'm talking about the dude that's got the bandage across his face, the one military guy, or Wayland Yuta guy. He was friggin' awesome. I loved that character. I think he could have been a really cool hardcore character moving forward. He could have been the human that bridges the stories, so to speak. But he's not, especially after this issue. I hate that they killed him off. I thought he was a great character. I'd like to have seen more to him. But other than that, the little girl and the Sith, they do make it out. They are Synth, how you want to say it. They do end up escaping and everything. He's going to take care of her and raise her like his own. You do find out his backstory was he literally was a droid that was kind of destined for destruction, or a synth that was destined for destruction. And her mother and father kind of rescued him, reprogrammed him, helped him out, blah, blah, blah. Once her father died, he kind of assumed the role of her father, so there would be no questions asked. Because on this particular planet, for this particular mission, there had to be two, and they did not want to give up the work. He knew about the aliens, so did her mother. That's what they were trying to uncover, but that does come back to backfire, like it always does in a good alien story. But this was another solid outing. If you're an Alien fan, Marvel has been doing a really good job with these Alien stories. I think they've been flying under the radar. You will probably, in another 2 months, you'll see an Alien #1 come out. If you're curious as to what they're going on, pick up that one, because that will start the new 5 to 6 issue story arc. They've been really good, fun reads, solid art, solid story. I really do hope that, and look, I'm just going to throw his name up there right quick. Chalvet, I really do hope that he continues writing these. He's done a fantastic job. Next up, we have Night Terrors, Wonder Woman, issue #2. This one had one of the coolest, I'm going to open this up so I can show y'all, had one of the coolest pieces of art that I've seen. I don't know, it was one of those that you see a piece of art and you're just like, oh my god, wow, that's gorgeous. I loved it. In this particular issue, Diana is fighting through her nightmares and everything. She's trying to get back to Detective Chimp and Constantine and everyone. And in part of her nightmare, it's like she becomes the only one left standing, this god above gods, and she does not want that. She wants to be fair. She wants to be just. But this is the particular piece of art that I was talking about. I don't know what it was, but when I flipped that page, literally the first words that come out of my mouth was wow. Just absolutely beautiful art with her sitting on Zeus's throne. I thought that was great. But she does reunite with the others, and they do start waking up. There's a reason why everyone's waking up, and if you've read Night Terrors Superman #2, you understand why people are starting to wake up. That does kind of play a prominent role in it. Even though that part's not mentioned, they're just waking up. But we do see the reformation of Justice League Dark at the end of this one. I don't know what they're going to do moving forward or how they're going to approach that, but I mean, it looked really good. I wouldn't mind seeing a little more Justice League Dark with Wonder Woman heading that up. Or as far as Night Terrors itself is concerned, and we do... wait a minute. I'm sorry, there's the Superman. We do have a couple more Night Terrors books. I'll get to those here in just a second. But when they're done with this, I would really and truly like to see Deadman. This is my fantasy casting, all right? This is... DC, if you're watching this, this is just what Alan wants. The World According to Alan, to quote a friend of mine. I would like to see Deadman, Zombie Sandman, and the Phantom Stranger. I would like to see them team up, maybe even throw in the Question and Constantine every once in a while, and let that be your Justice League Dark. You don't have to bring Wonder Woman into it all the time. She can show up here and there. Let them do it. I just think that combination of characters would be really good and really fun. I think with the right writer, I think with the proper writer, I think that sounds better. They could do a lot with those particular characters. Next up, I already kind of mentioned it, Night Terrors Superman issue number 2. For those of you that have watched when issue 1 come out, I was not a big fan of issue 1. It just kind of fell flat to me. This one was so much better. It was really good read. Basically what's going on is the nightmares, the night terrors are only affecting humans. They're only affecting the surface dwellers. They're not affecting the Atlanteans. And they do kind of, Mara and Aquaman do kind of have a hypothesis. It might have been Mara that come up with it. Their inner ear is so much stronger because they have to withstand the depths of the ocean and still be able to communicate with each other. Well, they end up taking Superman's body back to Supercorp. They run some tests and everything. They do basically get him awake and all that good stuff. And they've already secured the planet. The planet is good to go. So that's one of the first things. And they're like, no, we've taken care of that for you. You go do what you need to do. And then Superman flies off. This was actually a really good issue. Was not a fan of 1, 2. I really enjoyed it. We're still on the Night Terrors. Let's go with Night Terrors Nightwing issue number 2. And I did have somebody ask me if that was Poison Ivy. No, for those of you not reading, that is Barbara Gordon. That is what happens to her in the Night Terrors. But her and Nightwing are basically sharing a Night Terror, and the others are there also. For whatever reason, you have certain members of the Bat family that are trapped in Arkham or right around that area somewhere in their own personal nightmare. And Barbara does end up getting together with Cassie and... y'all know who I'm talking about. And you do have this really cool moment where you've got Oracle and 2 of the Batgirls. And they're kind of, back to back to back, ready to fight and everything. Nightwing, and I read this in an article somewhere, so don't think I come up with this on my own. And I do kind of agree with the article. I can't remember what, it might have been in comicbook.com. But basically Nightwing does admit that the most formidable fighters of the Bat family are the 2 Batgirls, and they do kind of somewhat prove it in this. It was, just a really good issue. They are escaping at the end. Everybody knows the way out. I really ended up enjoying the dynamic between Nightwing and the Scarecrow. As far as Night Terrors is concerned, this Nightwing, Night Terrors 1 and 2 would be more like a nightmare to me. The others weren't, and Batman. Batman's really been a good nightmare, but the others really weren't. This one was really good. We're getting ready to wrap all this up. In fact, as far as the actual main titles are concerned, I believe they were only doing 2. But this was, if you just want to pick up a couple of really good Nightwing stories, I still wish they would have come out in October and been like some type of Halloween special. I think that would have went over better. But, that's just me. Next up, we have Monomyth, issue number 4. So, these right here have... to me, they've been kind of dragging a little bit. There's been some things in them that really get my interest peak, and then we kind of pull back from them. Interest peak, pull back. Interest peak, pull back. And I really and truly can't decide if that was just the way that they wanted to write this. There are certain characters that I would like to see more of. In this particular issue, though, out of all of our characters, and for those of you not reading it, it's basically... a wizard has been following certain bloodlines, like 6 bloodlines, and he's been plucking people from each of those bloodlines, and it's some type of test. There's something going on. Can they bring back the magic? But the brother and sister in this, really good. Yeah, they start fighting. They're working together, even though they're separated in the castle. It's definitely got my interest peaked. It's not what I thought it was going to be. I believe somebody referred to it as like a grown-up Harry Potter. I can see that, but there's also some elements in there that's a little more mystery, a little more intrigue. I have been enjoying Monomyth, don't get me wrong, But I think this is one of those that you really and truly, I don't know if it's going to be 5 or 6 issues. You really and truly need to read all of them collected. I think that it would be a much better story that way. Like I said, don't get me wrong, I've enjoyed Monomyth by Mad Cave. There's just been aspects of it, just kind of the ebbs and flows of it. But it still has been a really good story overall. Next up, we have Void Rivals, issue number 3. So our travelers have pretty much made it back home. They're going to split off. They do have a little skirmish and everything, the way issue 2 left off. They do have a little skirmish and everything where they end up basically making a trade with the guy that they're fighting with, you know, kind of misunderstanding, blah, 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 blah. That's really not important. I'm getting to the important part. But they do make it home, and they're getting ready to split off and go separate directions. Then one turns on the other. I'm not telling you who because I don't want to ruin it, but one does turn on the other. But here comes your big spoiler. In 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. At the end of the issue, our story for the Void Rivals completes. Not completes, but as far as this issue is concerned, completes. You flip a couple of pages, it's like where fans have written in, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden you have like a new panel, you have more panels. It's not part of this actual story. It looks like teenagers, kids, falling through a cave, falling through something. They end up going out onto what is the bridge of the ship, the bridge of a ship. And here comes your spoiler. This is your final warning. And guess whose body's laying there? That's right, Optimus Prime. So we do get some of the Autobots cameo in here, except that it looks like they're all dead. But then again, keep in mind, in the very first issue, we got an Autobot that we thought was dead also until he flew off. So we have introduced Transformers in Void Rivals 3. I'm not a big Transformers fan, but I am looking forward to see how Kirkman and that whole crew does that. But Void Rivals has actually been a fun, good read without the anticipation of Transformers and G.I. Joe. I cannot recommend Void Rivals enough. Next up on the list, we have Alpha Flight, issue number 1. Same old story. It's like Marvel does not know what to do with mutants. It's like they do not know what to do in the types of stories that they've been writing. It's the same old thing that it always is. Oh my God, we're being persecuted. Oh my God, nobody loves us. Oh my God, we're trying to escape to somewhere else. Oh my God, why can't you just leave me be and accept me? I'm tired of hearing it, Marvel. You've got some of the most awesome characters that you could possibly come up with in the entire not just Alpha Flight, mutants period, and you're wasting those characters. Sick and tired of hearing about mutant rights, sick and tired of hearing about Genoshu, sick and tired of hearing Gene whine and or Scott whine and cry over Gene. Yeah, I'm going off on a tangent. Marvel, you have dropped the ball completely and totally. This could have been really good. This could have been a return. This is something that we haven't seen since, like, I think the 80s was the last time we saw an Alpha Flight comic. Could be wrong. There might have been something in between that then. But still, you literally just dropped it. It's the same old story with different characters. I mean, y'all really and truly need somebody who ultimately loves these types of characters to really tell you when you're writing a bad story. I know of a couple. I'm not one of them because these are not among my favorite characters. My favorite characters coming up. I know several people. Reach out to me. I'll put you in touch with them. They'll tell you if you're writing a bad story or not. Not good. Not good at all. I will be, in full disclosure, I will be picking up issue 2 and issue 3 just to see if this was a bad issue. I am willing to give it a couple of issues. But so far, completely and totally dropped the ball on Alpha Flight 1. In fact, if you really and truly want to know how I ultimately felt, if that synopsis was not good enough, track down the Alpha Flight short that I posted last Friday and listen to the lyrics. One person picked up on the lyrics of that title, and I just laughed and laughed and laughed. You'll get it if you go watch that short. Next up and last, we go from the ultimate disappointment. That's a little harsh. We go from massive disappointment to an absolutely phenomenal, beautiful, fantastic, amazing, cried tears of joy. Oh my God, it touched my heart. Oh, sweet baby Jesus, Chip Zdarsky, you are a genius. Daredevil, issue 14. This is actually a really sad issue because it is the last issue in Zdarsky's run. He has moved on to Batman with DC Comics completely now. This was, for those of you that hadn't been reading it, yes, Daredevil died. Matt went to hell. He faced the Beast. He basically is stuck there and everything. This issue really picks up, I believe it was 6 months later, and you have Elektra. She's still dressed as Daredevil. She's still out doing what he's supposed to do. Or, you know, she's carrying on his mission. You have Foggy has formed a new partnership. And Foggy does talk about, you know, he sees somebody, he thinks he sees Matt and everything. And you do kind of get glimpses, like in crowds and stuff, but the person will turn around and it'll be like an old man with a beard or something. But Foggy does meet up with Reed Richards, and he gives Reed Daredevil, Matt Murdock's chess set. It's like, hey, you know, he really enjoyed games with you, blah, 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 blah. I think he'd really like you to have this. They have a really nice conversation about loss and things like that when it comes to losing somebody you love, a family member. Elektra, though, but what really and truly set this entire issue off for me was Elektra does kind of help somebody out of costume, but she notices someone across the street. And it's a priest, and she follows the priest into the church. For those of you that read Daredevil, you know that Catholicism does really and truly play into the Daredevil mythos. But she goes in, she sits down in the church, and she's talking to the priest. Now, let's be honest, we all know who the priest is. We all know who he is, even though he doesn't know who he is. But they do talk, and he's like, you know, he does make a comment about her looking familiar. She makes a comment, you know, they kind of go back and forth. It's a really nice conversation. On some level, he's kind of, I don't know, maybe reintroducing himself to her because it's obvious that he doesn't know who he is anymore. But at the same time, she knows that he's happy and he's safe and all that. That's the way I took it. Beautifully written dialogue between the two. As she's leaving the church, she is kind of, you know, self-narrating, you know what we love with comics. And she does talk about, you know, loving him and everything else, but maybe in the next lifetime. It was just a really good moment between those two characters, one knowing and one not knowing. Sorry. But then we flash again, and our priest is leaving the church because he's actually getting ready to go somewhere else on down the road. But he's leaving the church and someone's getting mugged. And he's blind, naturally, because, you know, we know who he is. He kind of turns in the direction of where the person is being mugged. And he literally, either he drops his cane or something, but he reaches down to grab it, and the second he grabs it, it flashes and you see everything through his eyes like Daredevil sees. And then he picks the stick up, and that's kind of how it ends. Like he's walking off to go save that person. I believe Saladin is taking over next. I really, 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 truly please hope that he picks up from that moment or from right in there somewhere. I think that Matt Murdock, the priest discovering that he's Matt Murdock, discovering that he's Daredevil could be an outstanding story. But at the same time, Zdarsky really did leave this off to where the next series can kind of go any direction they want to and can pretty much start anywhere they want to. And I'm going to say it, I do love this character. I've loved Daredevil. I've loved Daredevil for years. Going all the way back to the days of when he was whining and pining over Karen Page, whatever. But I love what Zdarsky did with Daredevil. Zdarsky literally took this character to an entirely new level. Not only at one point do we have the apex Daredevil that we've ever seen, but then we have this beautiful moment at the end of this particular issue. I cannot recommend this enough. And yes, that is part of the John Romita series that Marvel's kind of doing for for his passing. But it was just wild because I go from disappointment to complete and total triumph. The perfect Daredevil story, has it been written? Only time will tell, but Zdarsky definitely goes down in my book and several other people that I know that read Daredevil is going down as a legend as far as Daredevil is concerned. And one of my favorite runs of Daredevil was way back in the day when Roy Thomas wrote Daredevil. And this right here, I think shuts everybody down. And that even goes, I know it's sacrilege for some people, but that even goes for the Stan Lee when he wrote Daredevil. I've read all those books, and yeah, Zdarsky is literally light years ahead of everyone else, at least with this character. I've loved a lot of other stuff that he's done, but he went to an entirely different level here, and it was just a very touching and poignant end to his series, to his run on Daredevil. I really hope he comes back one day. That is it for the pull list, but for those of you that have watched before, y'all know what's coming next. The only way to find out what the throwback pick of the week is, you had to have watched last night's episode of Shop Talk with Josh and Alan. So, nobody played along last week, and I didn't get to give anything away. This week, if you decide to play along, here are the simple rules. All you got to do is watch last night's episode of Shop Talk. In fact, we had special guest Mark Spears on there, so that'll help y'all with that. I say it like it's already happened, even though it hadn't happened yet to me. Go find out what issue number this is, and then be the first person to comment with the issue number after you have after the video is premiered. Then from that point, all you really truly got to do, the rules are simple. Be subscribed, like the video, issue number, and you'll win something. What are you going to win? I don't know yet. We'll base it off of your own personal preferences. Titles, things like that. You're not giving me some dream list of $5 books and I just send you one. No. We'll pick out 5 titles that you like, and then I'll go root around and find something for you. But that's it for the pull list. Hey, everybody have a safe weekend. Everybody have a good weekend. Remember, this is the greatest comic book ever written, and we will see you next week on the pull list.